I'm Frank Garza, and welcome to Here and Abroad, a podcast that follows the U.S. men's national team and their player pool across Europe, MLS, or wherever else they play their club football. The September window is complete for the USMNT. They lost their first friendly 2-0 to South Korea, but won the second 2-0 against Japan. On today's show, we're going to break down the U.S. performance in those two matches and what it means for some of the players fighting for their place on the World Cup roster next year. To help me do that, I've invited Chuck Booth to join the show. Chuck is a soccer writer at CBS Sports. So, Chuck, a tale of two different performances, I think, in this window. What was your biggest takeaway from the window overall for this U.S. team?
Uh, it's actually like such a tough question, even having the rundown ahead of time. Um, because and while Japan did some things to kind of help that, I think my biggest takeaway is just concerns about Pochettino. Um, because now I think actually today is 1 year of him on the job. And I know he didn't take charge of matches until the October window. But still, it doesn't feel like there's been enough progress toward a World Cup squad. And I know he's been like stressing recently that they don't need to win until the World Cup, which is true, but you do want to see progress. And we saw some of that against Japan, which is good, but we also saw that against Japan that rotated all 11 starters from facing Mexico.
Yeah, I mean that is an important thing to point out. Yeah, all 11 starters from their first team. I guess their first choice lineup was on the bench, so we saw essentially their backups. Um, and I guess I don't know if you were going to tell me ahead of time. Well, if the U.S. was going to play Japan's backups, what would you expect them to do? I would say, well, they should go out and win 2-0 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so on one hand, it's not this huge victory. We finally got this big win over a top 20 opponent, but I do feel like they kind of went out there, in my opinion, and did what they should do. So at least they did that. But this isn't like oh man, this team's on the right track now. This was a signature win, or anything like that. I mean, you have to take it into context that we did play their backups. Yeah, you mentioned a quote there from Pochettino when he said, I forget who it was in the press conference asked him, but like, when do you think it's important to, stop experimenting, and when does winning become the most important thing or something like that? And he said, winning doesn't become important until the World Cup, essentially. That to me was the most, he had his press conferences. If y'all haven't watched them, get on YouTube and find them, because his press conferences this window, even the one last night after the win, I mean, was just full of quotes. But that was the most shocking thing he said to me. Not to me, but the most shocking thing I heard him say of the press conferences was, you don't need to win. You don't even care about winning until the World Cup. I mean, I don't believe that for a second. I mean, I think momentum, if you go on like a 10-game losing streak, I find it hard to believe, no matter how much progress you're making, that all of a sudden you're going to be able to go out there and win.
Well, with these schedules, they could enter the World Cup on at least a 4-game losing streak, with talks of like facing Portugal and France or Belgium, and then already having, I think, Paraguay and Uruguay for the October window.
October is
No,
Ecuador
no,
and Australia.
November window.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are all challenging matches. I mean, you could see none of these matches that we have on the schedule so far should be. You would go in expecting, yeah, we should definitely win these matches. I mean, well, I mean, let's talk about that though, Pochettino. I mean, it's fairly obvious. I don't think anybody would tell you that the team has progressed in the year that he has taken charge. Now, what is the final product going to look like? You could argue that, this is a process he's building, just like he says, and maybe we will end up better. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that thinks progress has been made. I mean, how concerned are you? There's some people have been calling for his job. I mean, are you to that phase yet?
No, I mean, because at this point, what are you going to do? Even if you did move on and get another coach, like nothing really is going to change right now. Like we are here with Pochettino, and we do. I don't want to say like we have to support him, because like this isn't like a PR answer or anything, but he is the coach of the U.S. men's national team for better or worse right now.
Yeah.
And I guess the one hope is that he still hasn't, for really any of these tournaments, used what we would consider a first choice US 11. And I think that's the only thing that you're kind of holding up, is that since allegedly he's done with experimentation after this window. So whoever is called in during the October window is more or less what he views as, if the World Cup started today, this is my squad. And if you start seeing poor performances from them as well, then you're really just ratcheting up the panic meter.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is the first window we saw Dest and Balogun under Pochettino.
One of those went well.
Yeah. There's no McKennie this window. So yeah, I mean, who we think of as the stars of this team, due to various circumstances, some due to injuries, some due to Poch's own selections, we have not seen them all together on the field. So that's a good point there.
Which does, I mean, that does lead to even an important question of what stars is Pochettino going to leave home? Because there are going to be some pretty serious omissions from that World Cup squad, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this October window is going to be Judgment Day, so to speak, and we'll get to that a little bit later, because that is going to be just so fascinating to see who makes the cut for this October roster. Let me ask you one other thing about this match last night. I want to ask you about this back three that he rolled out. This is the first time we've seen him start with the back three from the start of the game. What did you think of that and how that went?
I mean, I was happy to actually see making a change. It's interesting that for lack of center back depth, the fix to that is putting more center backs on the field, but it did work yesterday, especially when it came to Max Arfson and Alex Freeman's positioning and then being able to push the attack. It's also the first time in a while that you've seen Christian Pulisic just taking the onus of being a creator in the attack as well. And it kind of hid the midfield deficiencies that this team has had, just because other positions could push possession. So overall, it was pretty positive from the back three. And it does seem like, depending on opposition, it's something that we should see more of moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. So if I remember correctly, we had Ream on the left, Richards in the middle, and Tristan Blackman on the right in that black three. And then you had in that back three, and then you had Max Arfson on the left as a wing back, and you had Freeman on the right as a wing back. And I thought Freeman, that's the first time. Usually when I've seen Freeman play, in the back four, he doesn't get forward very often. He mostly stays back. But I mean, he was in this match bombing forward consistently and going on the attack. And that was a huge difference I saw, that it gave him the freedom to do that, which I hadn't seen him do. I mean, I've always heard he's one of these two-way fullbacks that can play both defense and go forward, but you hadn't seen the going forward much. But in that system last night, I mean, he was constantly pushing forward and had some good runs.
Yeah, and like fullbacks have been one of the strengths of this team. So being able to lean into that and put like Arfson and Freeman into what's closer to natural positions for both of them, is something that was good to see. And I mean, Arson's assist to Alex Sendejas was quite a pass, and he could have scored a goal himself too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I liked it. I mean, the other thing that I think is important to note, and this sounds kind of obvious, but I just think that this U.S. team, one of their biggest issues is they concede goals so easily and so early. They just give up stupid goals all the time. You know, you'll see them come out and they're playing well, they're playing decent, they're getting into a game, they concede an early goal, and then that changes the game. They're chasing the game the rest of the way. They can't get back in it. The momentum of the game changes. And so I was just happy to see them keep the clean sheet yesterday. And if this back three helps them do that more, like I'm not suggesting they sit back in a defensive posture and become a counterattacking team by any means, but any more like structure you can give them on in the back to help kind of, I don't know, just be more solid. I just like to see that more. If I had to name my number one thing I want them to improve on, it's become more solid in your defensive shape in the back and don't concede so many goals due to like mistakes or being out of position or things of that nature. And so if this makes us a little bit more solid in the back, you know, I'm all for it because, I mean, we know the team can struggle in attack to score goals sometimes. This team just cannot afford to concede stupid goals, you know?
And it's important that even though they were in the back three, they still won possession, generated more expected goals, took more shots. Like they weren't by any means sitting back during that game. And also, even when there were like weird scenarios, Matt Freese and Chris Richards were there to take care of them.
Yeah, you're right. It did not look like a conservative team at all. I mean, they look just as attacking, just as much in possession as they always do. And so, yeah, I'm hoping he rolls with it. I mean, I think he's a little bit more. I think Poch is a little bit more willing to change away from. You know, he traditionally likes his teams to play in that 4-2-3-1, but I think he's a little bit more flexible than maybe like a Greg Berhalter was, where Greg's going to do the possession thing, you know, no matter what, and he's going to die on that sword. I think, you know, Pochettino even said that in one of his press conferences that he's not willing to die, you know, on a sword for his like theories and philosophies and preferred formations and things of that nature. So we'll see. I hope we keep seeing it because it looked super positive last night. Let's talk about some of the player performances. Who are some players that over the entire window that stood out to you in a positive way, and you think maybe helped their case, you know, to get a roster spot?
I think the two biggest ones, if we're looking at the entire window, are Alex Freeman and Matt Freese. Because even though it was a shift to the back three when Freeman came on against South Korea, he still, like immediately after, was when the US started generating chances, and a few of them came from solid possession on his side of the field. And then it feels like Matt Freese is the number one right now. Because, I mean, he did what he needed to do at the Gold Cup, won a penalty shootout. It was interesting because at least during the Gold Cup, it was kind of like, okay, he's at least booked his spot to the World Cup as a penalty specialist. But you saw a lot more confidence and growth from open play during these past two games with him, like coming out of the box, commanding his back line. Like you can tell he's just like gaining more confidence as he spends more time with these guys. And nothing in his club performances are saying that he shouldn't be the number one. And nothing in any of the other goalkeepers are saying that they should be the number one over him, except funny enough, the current American goalkeeper leading all of MLS in goals prevented right now is Sean Johnson, but he's not someone who's really in the World Cup picture right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was on the World Cup roster 2022, right? But there's probably a lot of folks that think he's like too old. And even though his
But
performance isn't
yeah,
showing it, I'm not saying. I'm
yeah,
just,
no.
but
Well,
it,
I was going to say it's also funny even saying that with Tim Ream
yeah,
on the field, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, we'll see. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't think he's. I don't think Poch has called him Sean Johnson into any camps,
he is
so
not.
far, which is interesting. Yeah, I think both of those guys. Freeze. I'm talking about the clean sheet last night. I mean, a big part of that is because of him. He made some really great saves last night. I mean, he could have, if he hadn't, we could have got down 1-0 in the game. They could have tied it up 1-1, and we could have had to did this. This result could have had a completely different feel for it. So I agree that I would expect him to be the starter in October, but we'll see. We'll see if Podge calls Turner back in, and we'll see what happens in training. And I think, it's what happens in October between Freeze and the other goalkeepers is going to be really telling. And I agree with you about Freeman too. The two of the other guys I had picked out were the goal scorers last night, Fuller and Balogun and Alex Zendejas. I mean, Alex Zendejas, he's the guy that I cheer for. Sometimes, I don't know, the player's personality or the way they play just kind of rubs off on you, and you cheer for him more than others. I mean, I like Alex Zendejas. He seems like a good guy. He's doing really well at Club America. I felt good when I saw him in the starting lineup last night. I'm like, he's going to get his chance. At least he's going to get his chance. What he does with it, who knows, but at least he's going to get his chance. I mean, and he scored a really nice goal. I mean, both the goals came from some very high quality, I would say. Zendejas' goal was Arvston beating his guy out wide and then delivering across to Zendejas, who took it on the volley and put it in. I mean, that was not an easy goal to score, and so I'm really happy for him that he kind of took his opportunity last night, and did something with it.
Yeah, no, because Zendejas is in a tough spot just because he's in one of the most competitive positions on the entire national team, with just so many wingers out there. But he definitely didn't do anything to hurt his case. Balogun's a tough one just because I don't think I mean, a goal obviously helps your case, but also I think the big thing is even though there has been a bunch of talk around who the striker was going to be, it's just yesterday means that Balogun didn't lose the role because it is still and always was his to lose.
Well, I'm still a big Pepe guy too, so I'm not quite ready to give it to Balogun just yet. I think Pepe's going to have a say.
Yeah, Pepe's going to be there. I just do find it hard to see, at least at this point, Pepe starting.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of been a Pepe guy for a while, but I'll tell you what, this window opened my eyes quite a bit to Balogun because I've seen Balogun as a guy who, okay, he can make a good run. He has good pace. But I didn't really see him with the all-around ability that I saw this window. I mean, he was doing everything this window. When he came in as a sub against South Korea and when he started, against Japan,
Yeah,
his hold-up play, his link-up play, he was always around the box. He was getting touches. He was involved. He was so involved.
yeah, that's the thing is I mean, of all of the U.S. eligible forwards, Balogun and Patrick Agyemang probably have the best first touch when they bring down a ball to be able to try and create chances for themselves. And that's just not something that other forwards have shown because even Pepe's chances are usually the pass was really good and he's already beating the rest of the defense to the ball. Whereas Balogun's goal of getting the ball from Pulisic and then just deciding I'm going to take on everyone and go straight for the goal. That's just not something that U.S. forwards do.
Yeah, I mean he did everything right on that goal. His positioning, versus the defender. I mean, the finish was excellent, but I was just so impressed with him. Even if he hadn't got the goal last night, I think he would have been on my list because comparing him to Sargent and what I saw from Sargent in those first 60 minutes or whatever, it was like night and day.
Yeah, it's funny though because like I mean, yes, Sargent didn't perform at all. I just I wish Sargent got better chances to impress because like in that first 60 minutes, no one performed well for the national team against South Korea. And he basically didn't touch the ball. And I mean, even yesterday, Belgium only had 30 touches and he did a lot more with them. But some of that was also down to the back three and how much pressure the wingbacks were forcing, stretching Japan in the box. And it just, every time Sargent's up there, it's kind of just like, oh, he can bring the ball down, just get it to him.
Yeah, I mean, the team laid a dud, but I hear from people a lot of times that they don't think Sargent's gotten like the chance, to like prove himself, and I feel like under Poch he's gotten a lot of chances. I mean, he started this match, he started the first match under Pochettino when they played Panama in the friendly a year ago. And I think he started some games in between. Was it the Nations League Final Four he started?
Panama was his last start before this one, I believe.
Okay. I thought he had got the start in maybe against, Panama in the semifinals of the Nations League. But nonetheless, I mean, he hasn't performed, not just in terms of production, but again, when I compare what Balogun was doing, his all-around play in the match this window versus like what I saw Sargent do. I mean, I didn't really notice Sargent on the field that much, when he was in the match. Whereas Balogun, I was like, this guy's an animal. He was everywhere, and so it just looked like night and day difference to me between those two. Is my opinion.
And I mean, and I definitely agree with that. And it is clear that Balogun did more with the time. But yeah, it's just like very interesting in how the different forwards are used with the national team because really none of them are similar forwards.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm hopefully Pepe, this weekend is starting for PSV, and hopefully he gets on a good run and we get him back into camp. And I'd like to see both Balogun and Pepe in camp for a change. That would be sweet.
Yeah, no, I mean, that definitely needs to happen because it's still pretty clear that they're your top two. And then I don't think anyone really knows who the third forward is since Ajimang, after his move, got injured and has not played any soccer.
Yeah, and Ajimang, we know Ajiman's going to be back in the mix at some point. Well, let's talk about the players that you kind of put out what you think is a negative performance, or maybe didn't help their cause in terms of trying to make the roster. I mean, Josh Sargent is my number one, who I just kind of talked about, but who you got?
Well, I mean, the other one who didn't help their cause, and I do want to give them a bit of a break just because it was his first game back in forever, but Serginho Dest. Because like the defensive liabilities when playing in a back four are massive. And South Korea took advantage of them time and time again.
So it was really his him as a defensive liability is what stood out to you. What did you think about his attacking? Did he look like the Serginho Dest of old to you? Do you think it was positive from that perspective?
He did against Japan coming in on the left, which was interesting that Pochettino completely switched sides for him, and then he looked like himself again. But also, like, in a perfect world, the left side doesn't exist because Robinson is one of the few players in this team that no matter what happens, if he's healthy, he's starting at the World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't blown away by Dest, by any means. I was so happy to see him back out there because I'm kind of biased towards him. I mean, he's one of my favorite players to watch. It would have been interesting to see him last night play with the back three, considering like how well Freeman looked. What would Dest have looked, like on that right hand side. So it was, I guess for me, positive just that he got back in there. Got a camp under Pochettino. He's back with the U.S. men's national team after like a year and a half. But yeah, I didn't think he like blew it out of the water, or anything like that.
I would say one more that's kind of unfortunate, and this kind of has been the case so far in bigger games for the U.S. men's national team right now, is that Diego Luna also did not help his case at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he looked okay against Japan. Wasn't productive, but he seemed to be one of the players a little bit more active. But it didn't lead to anything. So I mean, I guess if you go back to the final, the Gold Cup final, against Mexico, where he didn't do much, didn't have a great game, and now in this window, he started against South Korea and then came off the bench against Japan. No standout performances. So maybe just because everybody was so high on him during the Gold Cup, and he had those really standout performances, and now he's just kind of not doing anything outstanding. He's fallen a little bit.
But that's what's really important, though, because if you're going to make the World Cup squad, these are the teams that you need to be able to perform against, because they're going to be the ones you're facing at the World Cup.
Yeah. That's true. No, that's fair. A couple other guys I had written down, and it's not because I think that they had bad performances, but thinking about some of these guys that I think are on the bubble of making the roster or not, I don't know if they really helped push themselves over the line. Sebastian Berhalter, Damian Downs, Christian Roldan. I'm not sure if any of those guys did enough to really help their cause.
I thought Downs was actually like pretty interesting in his sub appearance against Japan, because it was like even how the U.S. was interchanging with him as a forward and the way he moves in comparison to other forwards, with being both a lot faster and just really not afraid to shoot no matter where he is. Like, it's almost if Tim Weah was an actual striker instead of a winger, is kind of how Downs plays. And like, I thought he was fine in the sub. We didn't see very much of him during this camp, which I mean, kind of feels like it says more about the players who were playing in front of him. But he was also always one of these guys who was going to be on the fringes, because even him being called in the first place under Pochettino was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I agree with you. He looks fast and quick and like a good player. I put him on the list solely because he didn't get that much time. I mean, what did he get? Like 10 minutes last night or something? And so that's a sign. That's a sign to me that he's probably not going to be around.
Well, that's also, I mean, kind of the interesting thing of this entire camp of, I want to look at these players and basically, I think, was it 5 players played fewer than 10 minutes during the entire camp?
I don't know that stat.
But actually more than that, because
I don't know. Noah Banks didn't play at all.
Yeah, well, Banks and Zawadzki didn't play at all. Neither of the other keepers called in played at all. And
Harriel barely played.
Well, Harriel was funny because with the fact that I also have a Philadelphia Union podcast, I was saying, watch Pochettino bring Harriel on as a center back. And
he did.
He did, closing out the game in a back three, which was interesting to see, because, I mean, Harriel has absolutely no place in the squad as a right back. I mean, I'm not sure he has a place in the squad as a center back, but if he's going to make the World Cup squad, it's as someone who's able to close the game out in the back three versus as a right back.
Yeah. And Poch did specifically mention Harriel in the press conference as somebody that he likes, has trained well, wanted to give more opportunities to, but just because of the players ahead of him, because of the situation, he wasn't able to. So,
Which is also interesting because like I know Blackman played a ton. I don't think he was great.
yeah, yeah, I was kind of neutral on him. I thought about putting him on my didn't help their cause list, but I
Yeah,
actually thought he was. I thought he was fine against Japan, and so just the fact that he's in the mix, and just the fact that our center back pool is so up in the air, I still think he's in the mix.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
with where he is in that position, you can't play that many minutes and not be in the mix.
Yeah. What do you think about Sebastian Berhalter? Because he's a guy, I like him. I like the effort. I like the intensity. I just don't know if I see him quite at the level to where he's really contributing that much
Yeah.
out there.
So that's the thing. Like it feels almost like you have to take one of Sebastian Berhalter and Jack McGlynn as a set piece specialist. This roster cannot afford to carry both of them. And but also like from open play, neither of them are actually doing much to like help their cases. Because even though Jack McGlynn is great going forward, he doesn't do enough defensively when he's had to come on in actual midfield positions. Whereas like Berhalter's almost the opposite, where he's been pretty solid defensively, but then when you ask him to actually advance the ball via open play, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. I 100% agree. I think it's very likely that either Sebastian Berhalter or Jack McGlynn will make the final roster. I think those two are in direct competition with each other. Even though they're different players, it's the set pieces. They're the best at set pieces by far. And then it's like, yeah, Berhalter doesn't give you much going forward, but he's good defensively. McGlynn, I think, gives you a lot going forward, but he's not good defensively. And you saw it even in the Gold Cup where McGlynn started, eventually got replaced by Berhalter, and Berhalter was in the starting lineup for the rest of the Gold Cup. So I do think those two are in direct competition. I lean, I think, more towards McGlynn because I feel like there's a lot of guys that can do what Berhalter does in central midfield and like from a defensive like posture, whatever you want to call it. McGlynn, I think he gives you so much going forward, not just with the set pieces, but the long range shots. I mean, that goal that he hit off the crossbar last night was incredible. I mean, that was like millimeters from going in, and he does that again and again and again. He's an option to me that you can bring off the bench late in the game when you need a goal to deliver the set pieces and to take these long range shots. And I've become a big fan of him.
Yeah. I mean, I would say outside of players who you would already consider direct starters, would probably Gio Reyna and Jack McGlynn are the next players who can raise the ceiling of this team the most when they are actually performing at their highest level.
Yeah. Well, you bring up Gio Reyna there. Let's. I think that's a nice segue into the last thing I want to talk about, and that's looking ahead to the October window. So, October 10th, the U.S. will play Ecuador. October 14th, they'll play Australia. We're only about 3 weeks away from seeing the roster on that one, so there's not that much time for players to impress, at their club. I mean, looking ahead to that October window, what will you be watching for between now and then, or what are you looking forward to, from that window?
Yeah, it's actually insane that it's coming that fast. But I mean, yeah, the number one thing is definitely going to be, does Gio Reyna finally get minutes for Gladbach? Because even in an interview that he did he basically said that he's had conversations with Pochettino and the staff, and that if he's playing and playing well, he'll have a chance. Which, I mean, I truly believe, because this team still does need him. And the biggest problem over the years has just been Dortmund not playing him, and you can't call in a player who's not playing and expect them to go 90 minutes and be useful at this stage. But he's in a position where he should be able to win a starting spot in their lineup and play pretty well in Germany.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see soon, right? I mean, he's had this international break now to be with the club, to train, to get familiar with their systems and whatnot. I saw some videos on Twitter of him playing in friendlies, and I think getting an assist, or not friendlies, but like scrimmages against teams, getting like an assist or whatnot. But we'll see what happens this weekend when Gladbach plays. You know, does he get some playing time? Is he in the starting lineup? I mean, he's probably only going to get 2 to 3 matches before Pochettino announces the next roster, so there's not a lot of time for him to impress. But we'll see. We'll see what he can do. I personally think maybe it's going to be a little bit too early for him. It's 2 or 3 matches isn't going to be enough. But certainly by November, I would hope he has more of a resume built at Gladbach. We'll see. I think that the number one thing I'm looking forward to on this October roster, and we touched on it a little bit, is that Pochettino has said that this September window was really the last time to experiment and see new faces and bring in new players and that sort of thing. And we all think now October is going to be the window where we finally learn who Pochettino really rates. I feel like I say this every window, so maybe he's going to surprise me again. But it seems like in October we're finally going to learn where a lot of the players fall, on his depth chart. And I'm thinking about guys like Tanner Tessman, Aiden Morris, Joe Scally, Cameron Carter-Vickers, a lot of these European guys that he's been using MLS players instead of them, but we'll see, does he really value those guys or not?
Yeah, I was going to say, in some of those, it definitely feels like they're probably out of the squad. Especially when it comes to the other center backs, because if he's not calling them in now when he needs to actually figure out his back line, like, I don't see a roster squeeze helping their case. Aiden Morris is going to be interesting just because he has, during some of this, been injured and has generally performed well when he's been with the national team. But also it's clear that Pochettino does like Luca de la Torre, and he's not going anywhere. But then also, like, Yunus Musa is going to hopefully be trying to knock on the door to come back, even though that door may not be open for him. It's like just so many moving parts, because with Pochettino calling in so many players, the one positive of that is you do feel like this is a much deeper squad than it was going into his tenure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Speaking of like Aiden Morris, I think the defensive midfielders is really crowded right now. You look at Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, Tanner Tessman, Aiden Morris, Luca de la Torre. There's other guys that can play there, like Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, if we needed to. So really interested to see how that group shakes out. And I'm interested about Joe Scally too. I think Joe Scally is on the outs.
It feels like Joe Scally's on the outs, because even in the, like, because the Reina interview was with Joe Scally, and meanwhile he's basically had no communication with the national team, and Freeman's positive performances are only closing the door more on Joe Scally, which is kind of funny considering that if the US is going to be trying out a back three, you would think you want Joe Scally there, considering not only can he play as a right back, but he has played as a center back in a back three.
Yeah. I just think because, Joe Scally, he can play left or right back, but with Arston and Freeman, what they've shown that they can do, I mean, Pochettino clearly values outside backs that can get forward, and Joe Scally doesn't really go get forward. And so why would you bring him in when you have Anthony Robinson, Serginho Dest, Freeman, Alex Freeman, and Max Arfston, unless you do see him playing like in the back three on either the left or the right.
Yeah, because I mean, it feels like 4 outside backs already feels like too many for a World Cup squad. So even when you're just like looking at this defense, it's gonna be like, who does get cut?
Yeah. I like Joe Scally. I'm cheering for him, but I got to tell you, Joe, I'm a little bit nervous for you when this next roster comes out. But we will see. Like I said, we should see that in about 3 weeks only, and so that's going to be really interesting. Well, Chuck, I will make sure and put links in the show notes to your. Where are you sending people to these days for your social media?
It's a good question. I think. I mean, I guess technically, Blue Sky is probably the place that I'm the most active. But yeah, I don't know these days.
Okay. Are you still at Chuck? Are you at Chuck Booth Sport on Blue Sky as well?
No, on Blue Sky, I'm Chuck_YEAA.
Okay, cool. Well, I will put links to that and also to your work at CBS Sports. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And what?
No. I was just saying thanks for having me, and it's just early. I have not even finished my first cup of coffee.
I haven't even brewed my first cup of coffee, man. So that's the first thing I'm going to do after we get off here. But thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thanks to everyone else for listening to Here and Abroad. If you enjoyed the episode, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or that follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or somewhere else. Thank you so much. I'm Frank Garza. You can follow me on X at FrankGarza007, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.